Hello, sixth grade. This is your math for Friday, December 3rd, and we're looking forward to having everybody back next week. We are hopeful that most of the people, at least all of the people that we knew of that were sick, will be better and be able to come back soon. And we are looking forward to the opportunity to see each other face to face, especially right before Christmas starts. So we'll go ahead with our math lesson today. Today we're looking at a different type of thing than what you've done before. I say different type. You've all done this before, but it's not something that you've done as regularly as you would have or you have before. I remember last year several people had difficulty with this concept, and that is the concept of mentally dividing a decimal number or mentally multiplying, which we've already covered. But mentally means you do it without having to do actual math. And so, for instance, I'll give you the example from what they had, not in the book yet, we'll go back to there in a minute, but what they've had in the past, which is basically you are looking at something, I'll just give all right, we'll say 1.38 times 100. Now, if you remember mentally, you don't need to actually go through and do this. All right, you don't need to go through and do the multiplication. You can, it'll still work, obviously, because it's multiplication. But there's a much simpler way, and that's why they say mental. So they do it in your brain without listening to, without having to do the handwork for it. And in this type of thing, you don't need to show your work. And so that's also very helpful. Speaking of which, there are those of you that I've talked to in the past about making sure you show your work. You do need to show your work, please. Please show your work. I know it seems like it's tedious, but the truth is it's more tedious to get a 16 out of 30 or a 13 out of 30 and fail the course so that you don't go into 7th grade this year or next year than it would be to just go ahead and show the work, and then you can find out where you've made mistakes. And that's what you're looking at, focusing on. All right, so we know that the answer to this one would be, I'm going to show you the complete answer. So because there are two decimal places, you would move it over 2 decimal places from the end, and so you would go back 1, 2, and then your answer would be 138. Now, you don't leave the decimals in there, obviously, but here's the deal. Mentally, to do that, all you need to do is count the number of zeros that you've multiplied by. Now, we've already done this lesson, but I'm just a review because the other lesson for today is sort of opposite of this. Count the number of zeros. There are 2 there, and so you take your decimal, and you're making your number larger because you're multiplying, so that means you move it to the right to make the number larger. So you move it the number of zeros you have. So the decimal is now after the 8, so your answer is 138. Now, if you see that, you can just look at it and you know that that's the case of what's going on. All right, so let's look at the division then. Division works the exact opposite way. And we'll look at the example they have. The first thing that they have, all right. So the example is 37.5, we're on page number 251 if you haven't gotten there yet, divided by 10, okay? Now division works the opposite way. So instead of moving it to the right to make the number larger, you're dividing, so that means you're making the number smaller. So if you're doing that, and you are, normally when you would do that, you would have 37.5 divided by 10, but of course you don't need to do that, but we'll just do that for right now. So 10 goes into 3 0 times, 10 goes into 37. Of course, when you have a decimal number in your dividend, you are going to move it up above first before you do anything else. So you put it above where it is in the dividend, and then you go ahead and do the division normally. 10 does not go into 3, so there's nothing to put up there. And then 10 goes into 37. How many times? 3 times. And so you put the 3 there. 3 times 10 is 30. Subtract. Okay, you get 7. You bring down. And then you divide again, and 10 goes into 75 now. How many times? The 5 is right in this space, so it would be right here. And so 10 goes into 75 7 times. So 7 times 10 is 70. Subtract. Now you bring down, there's nothing to bring down except there are zeros that you don't write in necessarily until you need them. And then you put there 50. And so 10 goes into 50 5 times. And so you can see then It's the same numbers that match. Anytime you have a number with a 1 followed by any number of zeros, the answer is going to match those, whether you're dividing or multiplying. Those same exact numbers in order are going to be there. But it just depends on where the decimal is. That's going to be your difference. So in this particular case then, if you did it long division, that's how you would do it. Mentally though, we can do this. You see 3.75 divided by 10. I know I'm dividing, so I'm making the number smaller. I have 1 0 in my divisor, which is the 10. And I'm going to move it then one place to the left to make the number smaller. So my answer is 3.75. So much simpler that way than it is to do it the other way. My 5 looks like a weird number there, but it's 3.75. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're moving it. When you're dividing, you're making the number smaller. When you're multiplying, you're making the number larger. Another way is if you're dividing, you move the number to the left. That's the direction of the negative. And so dividing makes things smaller. It's sort of a negative thing to do. Multiplying makes things larger. It's sort of a positive thing to do. So you would move that to the right side of the, and I'm showing you a different way. You move it to the right side of the number line in order to go positive, the left side to go negative. And when you do that, what you're doing is you are remembering division makes smaller negative. Positive makes larger positive. Larger positive. To the right makes larger. And so you're really looking. You're combining all these thoughts and how they relate to each other when you're doing math. All right. So look at the second example. This one says 3.75 divided by 100. A little bit different than what we had before because there's something you have to do in addition to just mentally moving the decimal 2 places. When you mentally move the decimal 2 places, that would be zeros. There are 2 of them. So you're going to move it 2 places, and of course you're making it smaller, so you're going to move it to the left toward the negative side of the number line. You move it 2 places, and your answer, and by the way, whenever you have a decimal and there's nothing in front of it, no whole number, put a 0 in front of it. So your answer is going to say 0.0375. All right? So that is how you would do that. That's how you would, anytime you have a space extra that you need, like this one, you fill it in with a 0, okay, on the decimal side. And then, of course, in front of the decimal, because there's no whole number, it'd be the same thing. All right, that is it for the practices. So let's give you one and see how you do here. All right, so here, do this mentally as quickly as you can. When I show it to you, you can pause if you need to write before I give you the answer, because I'll give you the answer right afterward. All right, so here we go. So you can pause me now, and then I'll put the answer down. All right, and there's your answer, 0.401307, because you have 3 zeros, so you move the decimal 3 places over, and that becomes your answer. All right, if you have any questions about this, and you don't quite understand, the practices should be pretty easy for you. There are only 8 there, and of those, all you have to do is mentally move the decimals the proper direction, which all of these are divisions, so they're all going to move them to the left, the number of zeros you have. So I expect a lot of check marks, and make sure that you are doing your practices. Make sure there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't be doing your practices. And so we can do them and grade them when you come back in on Monday. All right, remember, I am here a full day now with you, all right, until we find another teacher. I'm here a full day with you, and so I'm expecting things to be done because that makes my job a lot easier, and it makes your grade less uneasy. All right, have a good day, and have a nice weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.